Hello, Sharpies. How
You know
y'all
what?
doing?
You know what?
What's
You know
up?
what I'm feeling, Tom?
What you feeling?
Yeah, you know what time it is. Crack open that bottle of wine. Grab your favorite glass, pour a couple of fingers of scotch in it. Get that stick, light it, and blow. It's time to hang with Steel Sharpened Steel After Dark.
So we're gonna do this again. Hey, Sharpies.
What's happening, y'all? How y'all
It's
doing
after,
out there?
it's after dark.
Warriors. Sorry about that.
Come out to play.
Hey,
Um,
hey,
I
hey.
have to say, greetings from Los Angeles, where it is not on fire.
Right.
We are absolutely fire free.
Mm.
No thanks to the Munster Mussolini
Mm.
is bringing his thick orange rindedness into our fair metropolis and trying to invent foolishness and chicanery. There's all sorts of stuff that's been going on. State
Mhm.
senators caught up.
Getting arrested.
Um, ICE people getting run out of hotels in Pasadena. I mean, so the AC hotel in Pasadena uh, ended up being ground zero for a bunch of out of town icers. And when I tell you, the Pasadena peoples were
Was
like,
not having it.
nah, y'all need to go, especially since a lot of undocumented people were probably changing your bedclothes.
Exactly. They work here. And you really think that we're gonna let them clean, pick up your dirty underwear and make your bed with the streaks in it, and then you're gonna turn around and arrest them? I think not.
And when I tell you they ran them up out of the spot,
Yeah.
and to make it even more difficult, somebody apparently slashed the tires of the ICE
What?
vehicles.
That's so LA though.
So
That is so
while they
LA.
were parked at the hotel, they slashed the tires so that they couldn't go back on the streets and just grab some more people. So they had to prop up the tires. I guess they had to do some fix a flat until they could get to some place where they could change the tires and all this other sort of foolishness. I am not endorsing lawlessness. I'm just saying I understand because this is my city, and when I saw what people had gotten up to because he brought in the National Guard,
Mhm.
because he has now deployed Marines against U.S. citizens, can posse
Mhm.
comitatus. I mean, this is rampant lawlessness. And I don't know if you heard this, Joy. Tell me if you have. The Homeland Security Barbie, Christy Nome,
Yeah.
explicitly said that convicted and pardoned Jan Sixers could serve on these ICE raid posses.
No, I did not hear that.
Uh-huh. So
So
it's
not
so
only are you pardoned for a crime you actually committed by another felon who should never be president, you are now deputized. This is what old school Klan posses used to look like. A bunch of yahoos with no business having any sort of authority being deputized by the local authorities to do state sanctioned violence against ordinary citizens who just want to live.
super illegal. Also,
Mm-hmm.
just extra super illegal. And this is why Trump is not faring so well in all these legal battles. So you've got Alina Habba in New Jersey arresting a congresswoman. You've got the folks in Wisconsin arresting a judge. You've got people in LA arresting a state senator. You've got
Mm-hmm.
threats from the president and other senators, specifically from Alabama, which incidentally, the state of Alabama has 3 times the murder rate of California. So Tommy Tuberville, uh, stick to coaching.
The coaching.
my boy.
Matter of fact, just go home because you wasn't doing coaching well either.
You can. You really, literally can go home. I'm sure there's a nice cousin wife waiting there for you to make you some hoe cakes. So there's a lot going on, and the reason I titled the show "Cloudy with a Chance of Cheetos" is that, fortunately for us, there is a really not great weather forecast for June 14th. Now, why is June 14th important? June 14th is important for two reasons. One, there are more than 1,800 worldwide protests, no kings rallies, taking place on Saturday, June 14th. That's the number one reason that January 14th is important. The other reason is much more infamous, and that is because Donald Trump has mandated that 45 million U.S. taxpayer dollars are going to be spent on a North Korea-style military parade, putatively to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our nation's army. That's the excuse. 250 years. It also happens to be on his birthday. Mao Zedong is everything.
Yes.
Mao Zedong is everything. And I love that your avatar is orange. Thank you so much for that. So $45 million, and he wants to have this parade. Now go ahead.
I am in DC right now, not for the parade. I came here for work. So it is not raining right now, just so you know.
Right.
There's a 60% chance of rain. I just pulled up the app on my phone to look at the prospectus for tomorrow, and the percent chance of rain for the day is always higher than the percent chance of rain at any given hour. No hour gets above 30 to 40%. So, on Friday, on tomorrow, yes.
Well, the thing is on Saturday, though.
Well, let's look at Saturday. Let's see how Saturday's looking here. So Saturday, Saturday we got like a 85% chance of rain. Actually, it's definitely going to rain at some point in the day, but again, nothing gets above 30% chance. It's definitely going to happen at some point during the day.
It's going to rain at some point.
It's going to rain at some point. More likely to be either first thing in the morning or after 6. So, witches melt in the water, so I can understand why he don't want to be outside and take that shot, take that chance. But
yeah, we do.
I also saw the want ads in the paper for seat fillers paying $1,000 a day. $1,000. You had to show up, you had to look a certain way, you had to wear red, white, or blue, and you were going to be given a red hat to wear. And you had to stay the whole time and blah, blah, blah.
So he's talking about paid agitators in Los Angeles, and you were paying folks. Because I'll tell you what, I can perfectly understand. I don't like it, but I can perfectly understand why any American, especially an American who is even moderately aligned with that idiot, would take $1,000 to sit with a hat. That's hard money to turn down. Now, it's a long day. It'll be a long day in the rain. And Lord help you if you have people who don't like that dude and they happen to see you on TV. But $1,000 is good money.
So it's apparently on Craigslist. So we've got the Latin Times on MSN. We've got Newsweek. We've got, let's see, Snopes. Let's check that out real quick. I'm just pulling up something I'm looking. So is this real? So reportedly, there is a request on Craigslist. Seat fillers needed for June 14th, Constitution Avenue, blah, blah, blah. Is this true? Posts about it are seen everywhere. The ad itself was real and was posted on Craigslist. It has now been archived. It was posted on June 10th. We're unable to identify or confirm whether the ad was a prank or posted by someone from Trump's camp, which is why we can neither confirm nor deny. This is Snopes, which is where people normally find out.
Go to fact check.
So it could have been true and they got caught, but it just adds more credibility to me to this idea of we're just going to say it's going to rain, so we're going to cancel the whole thing. Now, the problem with that is they've already jacked up the city of DC. Traffic is a mess. Roads have been destroyed by tanks just running down them because the tanks are too heavy for the asphalt to withstand. So now streets have already been chewed up, all to hell and back. There's going to be at least $5 to $7 million worth of street repairs without even doing anything, right? That's already happening, you know? And Marie, you're making a good point here. She's like, if true, folks believe they will actually get paid. When has Trump and his party ever paid anybody? That's why you can promise $1,000 a day, because they tell you have to stay the whole time, which also means you don't get paid until it's over. And then what paid? I don't know you. Walk away. Now you've been made a fool of. Because matter of fact, one of them even said they were specifically looking for ethnic people. I also heard, if you remember Hegseth's ridiculous rally, if you will, at Fort Bragg, they screened the people standing behind him too.
Oh yeah.
You had to look a certain way, you had to be a certain type, and psychologically you had to be aligned with what they were doing. So you would cheer for that nonsense. They did not want women.
They did not want women.
No, of course not.
They did not want
not on their team. Yeah.
Nope. It was very much like Goebbels and getting Aryan ideal and manly men and fit men and all that sort of thing, so that you could claim that this is our fight ready fighting force, planet force, space camp force.
You know what I've never understood? And every now and then it just like pops in my head. I'm like, why is that though? The same way that Voldemort was really a mudblood and wanted everybody to hate on mudbloods, Hitler did not have blonde hair or blue eyes.
Nope.
Right. And now we have a Cheeto that is not even white. He's orange, and he's not anything he says he is either. So the ability of people to get folks to follow them, first under this cult of personality and then under fear of repercussions. You get in there and you get trapped. Like most people in the cult, I can't leave. I'm scared. But I am hearing certain, if it weren't for the fact that the people like, I can't believe I'm giving her credit for anything, but people like Marjorie Taylor Greene coming back and saying, I was too stupid to read a bill and I didn't know it was in it. If I had known it was in there, I wouldn't vote for it. And knowing that bill is going to have to go back to the House, and people now rallying up a little bit more resistance to it. You're starting to see Republicans say, well, we're not going to do this, because they realize how highly unpopular this is and that Trump is not going to be able to save you in the next election. And if you keep going the way you're going, there won't be one, because he'll strip all voting opportunities away. He's trying to do police state right now. They got National Guard troops and military in Fort Bragg in Texas now on standby. Standby for what? Texas was a red state. What you need standby there for? What you doing? You putting people in place in strategic spots across the country to deploy up. Texas can go anywhere, east or west or north. You're probably doing the same thing in Florida, probably Tennessee or somewhere over there, maybe coming out of DC. You got folks on the ground in California. Now, the California forces are struggling. And I love that Gavin has not backed down, because we on first name basis now. Gavin has not backed down with the idea of, come at me, bro. You think you big, you think you bad, to prove yourself, son. You scared, say you scared. Look, if you buck. That's all I'm hearing out of California, and I'm here for it. And remember before Kamala was specifically the one, I was on Gavin Newsom's team. Now, is he perfect? Absolutely not.
Nope.
Is he good enough? Yes.
Nope.
Yes, he is. And it's going to take a white man, and we can wish and want all we want. It's going to take a white man to get us out of this, because it's a white man that got us into it.
Yep.
So, and I also saw, and I'm sick of white people wanting black folks to save them. I saw this really ridiculous woman talking about Obama needs to stop playing basketball and get out here and do something. He's the only one that can defeat Trump. First of all, he can't run again. So what are you expecting him to do? He's already run his mouth multiple times. Like, y'all wouldn't let me get away with any of this. This is unjust. This isn't right. He's supposed to just spend all his time beating his head against the stone wall so you can feel better about somebody doing something, as long as it's not you. Because it was you and your vote that got us into this bullshit, or you and your friends that you don't talk to. Nobody that is voting for Trump is listening to Obama at all.
Nope.
So what is the point of that? And why is it that we keep focusing on Kamala, who was defeated and is chilling at home, and Obama, who's been gone for 8 years already anyway? Why are we looking for them to come and solve this problem when it's the people in office right now they got to deal with?
I mean, That's
Oh,
yeah, no, Pee Wee German is great.
Pee Wee German is diabolically wonderful. I love
Spectacular.
it.
Speaking of Pee Wee Herman, there is an excellent documentary about his life, kind of self-narrated. I didn't know. So if that's something that if you liked Big Top Pee Wee, if you liked Pee Wee's Playhouse, probably worth a watch. Certainly
Okay.
something to take into consideration as you are not celebrating on January 14th. And speaking of teenths in June, I just want to say our next episode falls on Juneteenth. And so we would love to have a couple of our Sharpies on the show to celebrate Juneteenth. So if you are a person who's been holding out, I'm not talking about you, Chan, but I am, then please consider hitting us up, letting us know. We know Samuel already has the link bookmarked on his page, but if there are any of you who have never been on the show and would like to come and talk and share and be sharp and be a contributor to the show, let us know. You can put it in the comments now and we'll reach out to you later
I actually would take it as a personal favor, because as you were saying that, I was like, I feel like I got something else. I might potentially be moderating another panel for the Blurred podcast or whatever, Blurredography, and I've got it on here, possible conflict. Okay. Maybe not. I'm trying to see if I can get out of it. It may be at a different time because they're East Coast, so it might be early. But we could really use some backup next Thursday.
We sure could. And it's going to be fun. It's Juneteenth-y. It's all Juney and all teenthy. And we can talk recipes.
It's gonna, unless something really catastrophic happens, it's probably going to be leaning towards petty. So it could be a lot of fun. Let's just sit back and, fiddle while all the plantations burn type of thing. Yeah.
Listen. Speaking of plantations burning and Nottoway Plantation. So, of course, Nottoway Plantation, it's been like 2 weeks now that Nottoway Plantation is burned down. And we already talked about how the house of one of the cabinet members also burnt all the way up in D.C. And the Emmy stage was burnt up by outstanding wins by Black folks. So you had Best Play was Purpose, which is basically an all-Black cast. It's and then you had Best Actor Female was a person from that cast for her second consecutive win. And Cynthia Erivo slayed. She killed it. She came out singing in this teeny weeny dress and had like 17 costume changes and was teleporting up to the balcony and just walking into the audience and having people sing and just a whole bunch. Oh, Audra McDonald just absolutely murdering Mama Rose and giving the sort of performance. I don't know if she delivers that 8 times a week, but what she did and the simmering rage and everything that boiled over out of that character was just amazing. And I'm going to say it. I feel like she was robbed. And I will say Nicole Scherzinger did her thing. I still think it's somewhat ridiculous that someone as objectively attractive as Nicole Scherzinger is playing a has-been. But it was pointed out to me that she is basically the same age as all of the actors who portrayed the Norma Desmond character on stage, up to and almost including Gloria Swanson, who was, I think, 49 playing a 50-year-old. She's 46 years old. Yeah. But she's a Hollywood 46. She don't look 46. Nobody.
She looks 30 tops. Yeah.
I mean,
and she got just enough melanin to not be cracking.
Exactly. So, my whole thing is that Norma Desmond is Delulu. She is faded. She's trying to hold on to an era that has since moved on. And I understand that this version of the show is wildly reimagined and very stripped down in the same way the company has been stripped down, in the same way that Chicago has been stripped down. And so it's very different. And I don't know enough about the production, but I just know when she sang that song on the Tony stage, and it was very Spartan, which I imagine is like how the show is. She sang her ass off now. She emoted, and I believed her. I just don't believe she's Norma Desmond. To that point, if William Holden was trapped in a mansion with Nicole Scherzinger, I don't think he'd be trying to tip out. I think he'd be just fine. I know I'd be just fine. I don't care how deluded she is. She looks like Nicole Scherzinger. She could sing like that. F it. I'm good. I'm a chick.
Now, I just pulled up this picture just now of Nicole.
Come on. She looks like Zendaya's older sister. What are we doing?
You see this neck though? And the reason I say that is, we're talking about somebody who is supposed to be playing a has-been, somebody who's washed up. And then I started thinking about her career. It was 20 years ago that I remember, was it the Pussycat Dolls or whatever, being a thing. And I am 51. I'm older than her. So she looks young to me because I still consider myself to be in my 30s. And I'm looking at her like, she looks great. Then I started like, let me objectively look at her from a Hollywood white male point of view. She looks old. From a Hollywood white male point of view, because she's got some wrinkles in her neck, a couple of lines around her mouth. Now, I'm saying all of this to be mean because she looks great. I'm being mean, and I know I'm being mean, but she looks great. But when we talk about how can you, imagine her as a has-been when she still looks like an ingenue, she doesn't. By their standards, I still think she's amazing. She could pull anybody she could pull anybody on our show, me included. So. Hey, look, the lights out is enough Hennessy. Know what goes on. But my point is, this is one of the things that's wrong with Hollywood.
You said Hennessy, and it took me back. I saw a reel. I don't know if the rest of you have seen this. Simply used to just be lemonade, and then they started getting into all these other juices, and now there's a Simply Grape, which I was not aware of. Yes, Simply Grape, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody pulled a bottle of Henny, a frozen bottle of Henny. So they keep it in the freezer, just like you keep vodka in the freezer. And it was, you mix Henny with the Simply Grape. And I guess it's supposed to be like scissor. I've never had scissor, don't care to. But he said, this combination is, he said, I am not at this level. And I don't use that word. I am not at this level of inwardry.
Because that is an elite level.
That is elite. Mm-hmm. And somebody said Simply Grape is water, sugar, and purple. Ain't no real juice in that bitch. It's literally
because grape juice isn't purple. If it says Simply Grape and it's purple, they're lying. Grape juice is like off yellow.
And I guess they put those Concord grape skins in it to kind of mess it up. But I mean, it laid me out. So, for those of you who have not yet made your plans, I don't know. By show of hands, put a comment in the chat if you are a person who is aligned with a No Kings event this weekend. Not necessarily saying you have to attend, but if you have signed up, if you have sent out a flyer, if you have done anything. Sect in 8. Chan, what are you doing, bro?
Chan, come on the show, bro.
Please, bro. Damn. You can have an avatar. We'll give you Fly Sean.
Right. And then you just got to come off mute and say this nonsense and go right back on mute. That's all you got to do.
Go back on mute. That's all. Mm-hmm. Sect in 8. My God, today.
Brilliant.
So as far as the No Kings, it would be such a shame if the coverage of the 1800 rallies dominated so much of the airwaves that there was no space for his pathetic little parade.
Well, it's going to rain on his parade anyway.
It's going to rain on his parade, which is that's just absolutely amazing. And
now I saw some stuff floating around the internet that said, post a picture of Barack on your social media pages all day Saturday and just make it Barack Appreciation Day.
I'm not mad at that.
I'm here for it. I will do it. I like a good picture of Barack and Michelle.
I'm gonna make a Barack Obama Facebook header just for that with a big ass 44 on it. Barack and Michelle Obama. M plus Stella Black plus Simply Lemonade. Name that one for me, Chan. Okay.
So yeah,
Oh.
Hennessy, Black, Stella Black, simply. Oh, this is about to be. Give him a minute. This is about to be crazy. Watch.
How Stella got her hand back.
That's not bad. How Stella got her hand back. That's not. It's not bad, Tom. I'm digging that. It's a good name. I would put that on a menu. I would absolutely put that on a menu.
Issa Rae, if you're listening, you can add that to Somerville, no charge. So I was just thinking about everything that's going on. You mentioned earlier, Joy, about Republican regret setting in. And one of the things that is interesting, there are 13 House members now, mostly people whose districts have been positively impacted by the Inflation Reduction Act, especially in the space of green new jobs. And so basically what they're saying is that you got to take some of this stuff out, because we literally have projects that are supposed to start like 2 months after this bill is set to pass that will be completely shut down if this bill passes. And we let it get out of the House because we had to kiss the ring. But hey, senators, can you please chop some of this dumb stuff out so that we don't look like idiots to our constituents when, you know, hundreds and thousands of jobs get snatched away because I put my name on this bill.
Right.
Can you help a senator out, please? Can you help a House member out? Because that's kind of where we are. And, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene was the biggest person to come out against the bill after she was for the bill. But she was back again talking about how much she loved the bill because it was important to undo what the libs did for 4 years, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, pardon me, Madam Chairwoman, didn't you just say that you wouldn't have voted for the bill because of this thing that's in the bill? And you clearly didn't have time to read the 1,000 pages because it was dropped in your lap at 1:30 in the morning and you had to vote on it at 1:35. And yet we have in this space every single one of the cabinet secretaries getting eviscerated in hearings because they're lying and they're just saying whatever they think won't piss Trump off.
Right. And when they get caught or cornered, they just start spouting everything. You know,
Right.
So did you really agree to it's blue outside and I don't like it and it's in America and just whatever. Anything they can think of. My country tends to be. I my people voted me in so I can take care of things, and I'm sitting here. Here's thing one to thing two. Redfish, bluefish, whatever. I'm here. America. Yeah, I love Trump. Yeah.
I look at what these people are confronted with and what they have to say, and probably the most annoying one of all is Scott Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, who may be in line to become chair of the Fed. God help us all if that is to happen. But Bessent, you know, you've got people like the Commerce Secretary, Lutnick, and he's boisterous and loud and crass. But Bessent is unflappable. And he has that patrician kind of cool New England charm. I don't know if he's from New England, but he has that charm. He did graduate from Yale. And he's just a smooth liar. And
that's a dangerous type.
It is. It's because he doesn't get his feathers ruffled. And he was confronted by a reporter who said, so Penn Wharton says it's going to increase the deficit. Do you disagree with Penn Wharton? Yes. Yale, your alma mater, says that it's going to increase the deficit by $3 trillion. Do you disagree with Yale? Well, yes. Elon Musk says it's going to increase by 2.5 trillion. This one, Quinnipiac, all these economists, every literal person who knows about money in this country is saying it's going to increase the deficit. You disagree with all of them?
Yeah.
Why, yes. And it's like, what do you do with someone who's that obdurate? I just don't even understand. And perhaps the best one that I saw, because I think it was on Univision or maybe Telemundo, this guy was confronting Marco Rubio. Now, to Rubio's credit, not know he was that articulate in Spanish, to be completely honest. Because he sounds so gringo adjacent in every other situation. But this guy was saying, talking about the immigration issue, and Rubio was trying to kind of dodge things. And he said, but your grandfather was on a list to be deported. He came here illegally in 1963 and was on a list to be deported in 1965, but he got grace. How are you not extending that same grace to these other people who are in a similar situation? And it was like,
look over there.
No, he tried to answer. He tried to say, well, in 1961, and this is all going back and forth in Spanish, which is why it sounded extra telenovela. But he's like, mi abuelo and da 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 da. At the time, there was no legal pathway for Cubans to get into America. And he's like, but that's exactly my point. He came over illegally, fleeing oppression, and got to stay. And then when he could have been deported, he got to stay, which is why you were born here.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to deny that to these other people. And that's why people are calling you a hypocrite. And it was the abba dabba dabba.
Mm-hmm. Look at these kids.
Yeah. Can I have a tortilla, mama? Tamales. So, yes. Diabolically evil. You are absolutely right. I mean, cool.
And Christy Newsome, I saw a Republican senator earlier today on the floor of the speaking from the floor, and he was like, he was in support of California. He's like, they're trying to twist the story into saying that all these things are happening and it's not happening out there. We cannot let them twist the story around Padilla getting arrested. We cannot let them twist the story around saying that he didn't identify himself. He very clearly did, because he was recognizing, even in spite of the fact that I don't know if he's a Trump supporter or not, because I saw it in passing, but we cannot allow any ruler of this country to get to the point where they can arrest other local authorities just for speaking their mind or being in a place.
Right.
But Trump's doing what he said he was going to do. I'm going to get rid of all my political opponents. At every level,
I mean, he is a United States senator.
Yeah. Duly elected with a right to be where he was and to ask the questions he was asking, which weren't hard. They were just uncomfortable. Nope. And so I don't like what you're saying. Get him. And then Chrissy Newsome should not have had the authority to say, get him out. First of all, you in California. The fuck you thought, right? So all of this is insane.
It is.
I want to flip gears for a second and talk about an experience I had earlier this week. I was on my way here to DC, and I had a lady pick me up. She gave me a ride from in the airport to the airport from my place in Atlanta. Right? I get in the car. We're having a decent conversation. I'm telling her, I'm getting old. My knees hurt. I'm tired. Blah blah blah. But I gotta make it. And so we're just joking around. She's like, "You got good energy." And I was like, "Thanks. Appreciate that. I try, blah, blah, blah." And somehow, I think she asked me what I did for a living. And I told her I was a culture consultant, et cetera, et cetera. And she goes, "So how are you dealing with, how do you feel?" I'm just being honest with you. Just trying to figure out, how do you feel about about them getting rid of DEI? And I was like, well, they haven't, for one. There's a lot of bluster, a lot of talk. Maybe at the government level, some things have happened. But generally speaking, corporations know the side of the bread that is buttered. And so they're making sure that they keep their potential clients and customers, et cetera, happy by doing the things that are right. And so she's like, I didn't really care that they got rid of DEI. And I'm letting her give her some rope. What do you mean? And she's like, I didn't care they got rid of DEI because it never worked the way it was supposed to anyway. And I was like, okay. Maybe I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And she was like, it really benefited white women. Yep. I've had that argument. I've had that discussion before. And you make a point to it. And she goes, yeah, people feeling some kind of way. And I made the mistake of jumping in and saying, yeah, a lot of them felt betrayed after this last election, but we didn't, because we knew what he was. And she took that and took umbrage to it because she is, ironically, a Trump supporter. I didn't see that coming. right? We having a good conversation. We talking about, and so when she said she didn't care if DI was gone, I've heard that people say, who cares if they got rid of it because they were never doing it right in the first place. It was always benefiting someone else. So it's really hurting white women more than anything else. I didn't expect her to say Trump's not a bad guy. And she went on about how, she read his books and he's a really good businessman. And that's what we needed in office, is someone who knew how to run a business successfully. And I had to come back like, first of all, the government is not a business.
Yep.
It is never supposed to have been a for-profit entity. It was to move money around to serve the people that it supports, never to make money for anybody. So it is not a business. It is a government body. There's a difference. And then she talked about, so she's listening to me and I'm telling her all kinds of things. First off, I had to explain to her the difference between a bill, an act, a Supreme Court decision, and an amendment to the Constitution. She didn't understand any of that, because she just like, then she's like, well, we need to just let government stay out of it and just use the courts. The courts are part of the government. I need you to understand that the laws that the courts use are made by the legislative branch of the government. The judicial branch is a branch of the government. And furthermore, when you have these people that bring lawsuits, if they can't afford it, or if they, God forbid, they win against the city or against the state, who's paying that? That is taxpayers having to come up off that money for people getting done wrong at the local level. And so that's coming directly out of your pocket. And she's like, well, I haven't really seen any evidence of that. You know what? I'm not here for this. Why am I in this car? Why am I here? And then she tells me I need to read Trump's books so that I would understand him better. And I asked her, I said, okay, well, I will take that because I have not read his books. I said, I will ask you, did you know that his books were ghostwritten? Like, it's not really him speaking.
He didn't write them.
No, he didn't write any of these. I said, he knows nothing about any of this. And I said, and furthermore, his books are subjective. They are written to make him look good. They're not based on factual evidence. I said, have you read, I said, would you be interested in reading the 1619 Project? She's like, what is that? And her whole thing was she's born and raised in Brooklyn. And so Brooklyn was rocking with Trump back in the day because, he was in a lot of rap songs, a lot of rap. Diddy knows him, all these kind of things. He seemed to be cool with black people. He was cool with people with money. Some of them happen to be black. He's not going to invite you to his house, but he will see you out and about at the restaurant. If it seems like he can raise his own social status by being next to you, he would be next to you. And so that's what it was. I tried to explain that to her, and she just like, and I was like, his casinos went under. Who bankrupts the casino? The house always wins, but apparently it wasn't enough. He never pays his employees. I laid all this out for her, and she's like, he hasn't done anything that other people haven't done. And people said he did this, like when we talked about the Central Park Five. She's like, everybody in New York thought they should go down because that's what we heard. Then when we heard different, we changed our mind. I was like, yeah, that's my point. He didn't change his mind. He heard new evidence. He took out that ad after it came to light. So what are you saying? So I got out the car. I was like, you know what? Thanks for the conversation. You should read Stand from the Beginning. You should read The Fire Next Time. You should read 1619 Project. I said, if you don't want to read it, you can watch the short documentary on Hulu. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'll look into that. But you should read his book. She ain't gonna read shit. But this Black woman is one of the 8%, because clearly she won the 92%. But when people say, oh, it's impossible that so many people voted for him. No, it ain't. And yes, I know that they're looking at a couple of counties right now. There may be more to come from that. But the reason people believed that it was possible is because they run into folks like her. I remember Cujo Goody of Goody Mob, the rapper, voted for Trump. You got all these songs about the Georgia Bulldogs and government and big, and this new world order is about to be a problem, blah, 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 and how bad it is in the hood. And then you voted for Trump. Why? Because you wanted to see women be oppressed. Everybody who hates somebody else found a space in Trump. And now they're discovering that while they're hating on somebody else, somebody's hating on them and discovering, oh, what do you mean I'm getting deported? It's supposed to be those Latinos, not me. Anyway, my point to the whole story is folks out here are really disappointing. It is demoralizing to see someone. It wasn't like she was young. Like I said, she grew up We were about the same age. I think she was like maybe a few years older than me. So there, you can't say ignorance or brainwashed by social media. She just really believed this, you know. And there's a whole lot of people like that. Not just the 54% of white women. There's a whole lot of other people and other demographics that think, well, if he's doing a bad job, it's not his fault. That's another thing that she said. All the stuff going on with the government was Elon's fault, not Trump. And this is how he becomes a Teflon Don. He finds somebody to stick close to him so that when the shit hits the fan, he can put them in front of him. And you catch all of this, and then I'm still good. Yeah, that's what she said.
But
look it out.
Trump elevated Elon. Trump is the
and
only
gave him
reason
security
Elon
clearance.
had the power to do it was because of Trump.
It's because if you consider it, he does not qualify for the level of security clearance that he got.
No.
And it had to be presidential override to give it to him.
It absolutely was. Just like the president had to give a waiver to the currently serving chairman of the Joint Chiefs because he, by the strictures of the codes, did not qualify.
Right.
And he tried to say that we defeated ISIS in 4 weeks. And that the guy he has as the chairman now was in charge of the military. Now, this guy wasn't even one of the Joint Chiefs. So he was at least 2 levels below the person who was actually in charge. Because he wasn't the chair at that time. So he might have been a guy, maybe. But is ISIS actually defeated? I mean, I'm pretty sure there's still terror going around under the ISIS banner. I mean, you killed some folks. Obama killed
Osama bin Laden.
That was a big get. You did
and buried him in the ocean. Yeah.
And you got that guy. That guy was an important guy. He doesn't have the name recognition of Osama bin Laden.
No.
Al-Baghdadi or whatever the guy's name is. Osama bin Laden was very easy to say. You can't expect that your Americans are going to be able to remember somebody's 20-syllable.
They can't say Worcestershire sauce, bro.
They cannot.
No.
They cannot say Worcestershire sauce. So I just wonder, we're seeing a bunch of things happening in our country, not the least of which is that we're having real tension between people like Lindsey Graham, who decided they were going to make a calculation to kind of, suck up and to be a shield.
Yeah.
For little Lindsey. And then you have people who really owe their entire political lives to Trump. And so they can't go anywhere. That's a lot of people in Congress. Then you have people like Rand Paul, who perhaps thought that Trump would be a useful tool. And now discover that he is. And now they're finding out that he's uncontrollable. Yeah. And so they're like, well, we can't let all of this slide. We've got to cut some of this because some of this is absolutely ridiculous. So you've got those people. And then you've got some people in the squishy middle. Like, I don't think Thune really agrees with a whole lot of what Trump is doing right now. Yeah. But none of them are speaking out against it. But what they are doing is taking the coward's route. So, you know where Mike Johnson's going to be on June 14th? Where? Back home in Louisiana. He's not going to be at Trump's parade. Senator after senator after senator after senator. Hey, you going to be at the parade? Nah, I got to wash my hair. Constituents, prior engagement. More important than the 250th birthday of the American Army, and more important than kissing the ring of Tangerine Dreams. That's a lot. Yeah. That is saying a lot. That's like the unpopular 8-year-old who had the party at Chuck E. Cheese. And even Chucky don't show up. I mean, Chucky has mono. You got one of them. The little bears gone. Animatronics doing like this. You got nobody. Nobody's in the wind tunnel with the coupons to collect it. Just tokens everywhere. Just, that pizza with the little pebbly texture on the bottom.
Ugh.
Nobody is there. You ordered 15 pizzas, and not even the unpopular kid shows up. You sitting there with party favors and tokens and bad pizza and all you can eat salad.
And even little Billy P Pants is not coming to your party.
No, nobody's coming.
And so
the people who do
come,
well, I mean, he canceled the inauguration. He literally canceled the inauguration and blamed it on weather. When, dozens of people flew in to see.
It's interesting you say that. Like, we are in the Bethesda area, and there are hotels out here that we've stayed here before when we're coming for work. $150, maybe $180 a night. We couldn't get into the hotel we wanted to because it was either sold out or the rate was like upwards of $500 a night in preparation for an expected surge of people wanting to come in. They're trying to price gouge for this weekend, right? Nothing happened. Those rooms are still there, still empty. Nobody filled them. And I think recognizing that occupancy in some of these hotels is not where it should be outside of any random weekend. Ain't nobody coming up here because the people that want to can't afford it. And the people that can afford it don't want to. Nobody want that stink on them.
The thing that is interesting, speaking of stank, and I put this in the preview for the show, and since we're at 47 minutes, I want to try to take a trip down this road. Guess which immigrants are suddenly okay?
The Haitians?
Nope. Farm workers?
Oh, yeah.
And hospitality industry workers.
Yeah.
And the way he described it was, you've got these people on the farms, and I guess the farmers love them. They've been working there for 20 years. They've been doing a good job. The farmers need them. And what happens when they get sent away? Because maybe sometimes they have their paperwork, maybe they don't. Who knows? But when they get sent away, what's happening is they have to hire the criminals. The criminals who are selling drugs at a 2,000% profit are going to work for 90 cents an hour picking oranges.
If I'm pushing weight, I'm not picking strawberries. Ain't no way.
But he heard from the farmers. He heard from Nebraska. You want some beef? You want beef for those McDonald's quarter pounders you be hawking back? I ain't got nobody to herd the cattle. I ain't got nobody to milk the cows. I ain't got nobody to feed the cattle. And then the hospitality industry is like, bro, you're a hotel guy. Are you kidding me?
Who we hire.
You know who we hire because our margins are non-existent and we need this labor force. And now, after weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of demonizing hardworking people, he would be in an entirely different situation if he only went after criminals. The problem is the majority of the criminals have already been caught and are in the system. But when you try to make it seem like everyone who is here undocumented,
the crime is being here undocumented. That makes you a criminal.
And guess what? That is civil. That is
similar to how they do black people that get shot by the police. He stole a cigarette. He had a warrant out for his arrest. It was a bench warrant for a speeding ticket. He didn't deserve to die for it. They just like they think all black people deserve to die for being criminal or having criminal background. All people of Hispanic or Latin origin need to be deported because they're all here illegally. No, they're not. And the way ICE be coming up in these courts, catching people after they trying to do the things right. They're showing up. They're showing a proof of residency. They're showing that they want to take a path to citizenship. Yep. And if the judge denies it or if it gets delayed or whatever, they getting rounded up on the way out of the courthouse, which is what that judge in Wisconsin got arrested for, was trying to stop them from doing that.
Trying to stop them from entering into her court where she has eminent domain.
Yes.
And trying to interrupt her court proceedings where she is trying to mete out justice on somebody who has been brought before her, not on an immigration issue.
No,
She's trying to make sure that the proper thing happens to him,
doing
which
her
may have
job.
been him being sent to detainment. And if he were sent to detainment, then he could be deported. But you don't come into my space just trying to grab people up. That's what you're not going to do. And I saw an absolutely horrible story. Oh yeah, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So
That's what
for
it is.
y'all, for those of y'all watching this on your phones and whatnot, the Reddit conspiracy theory is backroom deals for immigrants, especially in the construction industry, are being made from big businesses. They're getting to stay. So if you're, illegal outside Home Depot, you might be all right. But this also consolidates the players in real estate and puts scarcity in the housing market. So this becomes an economic lever at some point. And similar to what Yvonne is saying, who's making money for operating those detention centers in El Salvador, et cetera, et cetera. Similar to how we saw the increase in incarceration rates, the school to prison pipeline, et cetera, when we started having profit center prisons in the United States. Somebody is looking for their money and they need somebody to put in there, so here you have it.
And I saw an absolutely horrible story about a mother who's a citizen, has 2 citizen children, minors, and they were scooped up. No phone call.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't know where they were. She called an attorney who donated services to try to help her find her kids. The people who showed up and scooped them up had no identification. They weren't even wearing uniforms, masks, everything. They eventually found her sons like 3 or 4 days later in the basement of some place with dozens of other men. They hadn't been fed. One of the boys had a big scratch on his face. All they had were those little metallic blankets that are supposed to help you retain heat.
Yeah.
Hadn't been fed, had no water. The mother provided the documentation to demonstrate that they are actual American citizens and not immigrants. But because they're brown, it didn't matter. And it took them, even after the documentation was there, it took them hours and hours and hours. She finally got her sons back at like 4:30 in the morning, and then had to rush them to the hospital because they were dehydrated and malnourished and all these other things. They were in shock. They were traumatized. And these were American citizens. So I've had to have conversations on a couple of other people's pages, between frat brothers and everybody else, because I have some socially active brothers and they'll put posts out. And then inevitably you'll get some foolishness from some people in the comments talking about, well, do you have that same energy when they're here illegally? I'm like, bro, without due process, prove that you're a legal resident. You prove it without due process. Because what's happening is there, as you said earlier, Joy, I show up for immigration court.
Yeah.
I haven't been approved yet, but I'm keeping the appointment because I was told I needed to be here, and you're trying to snatch me away. So you're just taking me. I don't have the opportunity to say to a judge, wait, I've been doing this for 6 years. Here's all of my appointment, da, 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 da. If there's no due process, you cannot prove anything. You can say you have an ID. That ID is fake. I know it's not a fake ID when I see one. So prove it without due process. And that's the catch-22. You can't say they're doing the right thing. You can't say they're here illegally. Illegal is fine, but that is a civil infraction. It is not a criminal infraction. And so there are methodologies and ways to deal with it. Somebody who approaches a port of entry, the gay hairdresser from Venezuela who approached the port of entry, he has a mom tattoo and a dad tattoo. He came to the port of entry. He said and made his case for why he needed asylum. He was granted temporary approval so he could get in and not be in Venezuela. He got scooped up because he has tattoos. And a congressperson was grilling Kristi Noem about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any other information? Do you have any other charges? Do you have da 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 da, or anything other than the mom and dad tattoo? Do you have anything? It's not just that we're following procedures. People he's associating with that. He's da 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 da. What other evidence do you have about this particular person who now everybody knows because this particular person has become a bit of a co-celeb, even more so than Abrego Garcia, because they had to dig back into 2022 to come up with something to charge him with. And now
Yeah.
the single charge of a traffic stop, from which he was released, has been turned into he's trafficking people. And
Yeah.
now the people has turned into, because he's trafficking people, other people he knows are trafficking children. And those people who are trafficking children are selling drugs to children. And those people who are selling drugs to children are killing children. And all of it comes back to Abrego Garcia, but all you have on him is a traffic stop from which he was released. And you're trying to say that that's how you're going to send him back. But now he's going to be in a court.
Mm-hmm.
And now people are going to have to listen to what you have and make a determination as to whether or not it's valid. It's not going to be as simple as you thought it was.
And to my point earlier, who's paying for that?
We are.
Yep.
And even everything that they're doing, the deployment of the troops in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They're saying $140 million.
For them to be piled on top of each other in cheap hotel rooms with no food and no fuel, because they sent them out there with nothing.
Nothing. No infrastructure. No, and the police, they have people walking through the streets. Hey everybody, as you can see, I'm downtown.
Mm-hmm.
LA is not on fire. And listen, I saw some pretty bad stuff. I saw people throwing rocks onto cars and shattering police windows. And I saw 5 or 6 Waymos burnt up all the way up. I know.
What they burnt the Waymos for, man? The Waymos.
They got way more shit to burn than the Waymos,
right.
But they burnt them up. It was like 5 or 6 of them mugs. And I know
they probably thought they were Teslas. It's an electric car.
Well, there's that. And I felt badly for Jaguar. I did, because I've never been in a Waymo, but I know they look expensive. That's probably $150,000 a piece. Gone. But that was in response to Trump bringing that military presence there.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of, they shut down the freeway. Yes, they did. Yes.
They shut down a freeway in LA? That's a riot right there.
They had food carts on the 101. They had food carts selling hot dogs and tamales and agua fresca. They on the 101. It was like Carmageddon. I don't know if anybody even remembers what Carmageddon was supposed to be, but they were doing some fixes to the 405 in LA. And if you know anything about LA, the 405 and the 101 and the 10 are the 3 freeways that most people have heard of. And they shut down the 405, and it was supposed to be this nightmare. It was like, shelter in place. Don't even go to work. Just unless you're an essential worker, stay at home, because it's going to be a nightmare. You'll never get to work anyway. So just stay at home, work from home. There's a picture of a couple that took a small cocktail table and sat it in the middle of the 405 and ate lunch because there was nothing going on. And that's what it was like on the 101. People, they shut it down. And then he brings in the National Guard against the law.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns into a thing, and smoke, tear gas, and all this sort of stuff. And the people responded. And they were, when I tell you, they were hacking cobblestones off of the park that's right next to the overpass and throwing them things on those police cars. It was crazy, but it wasn't burning.
And it wasn't widespread.
It wasn't wide. It was very concentrated. When I tell you, perhaps a square mile, but really not even a square mile, a mile-long strip.
It was
a
neighborhood. Yeah.
Is where it was. And the only reason they were able to do it is that the overpass provided them the capability to launch those missiles onto the cars below.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. And now it's like, okay, yeah, got it. All right. So we're kind of done. And Trump, again, is taking credit. LA would have been burned to the ground. No, bro. Just like Minneapolis.
It was never on fire.
Burned. It was never on fire. Minneapolis did not burn to the ground.
Right.
There were protests. There was some looting in certain parts. Kyle Rittenhouse killed people.
Yes. For no reason.
For no reason.
No reason to be out there.
No reason to be out there from another state. And here you are taking credit for something, just like you claim that you brought all the beautiful water from the Pacific Northwest. Guess what, bro? That was Central Valley, California. And it didn't get to LA. You didn't squelch a single ember of the Palisades fire by
You
turning
know
on
what?
that water and wasting it.
That's a good point. He wants to say that LA is on fire right now, so he's sending in the National Guard. But when California was actually burning, he couldn't be fucking bothered.
Well, until after everything was done, and then
Yeah.
he blew I think it was 20 billion gallons of water that were supposed to be held in the reservoirs for, the summer,
Mm-hmm.
when people in Fresno and Napa might actually need the water for crops, and they just flooded the fields, and now that water's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go,
And
professionals.
this is true.
You might say
Mhm.
paid.
Right.
You
And
got
creating
it.
the false narrative. So creating the false narrative, spreading lies. This is the what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a personification. This is in 1984 brought to life. Do not believe your eyes. Believe what we're telling you.
I
And every
watched
day the story changes. Mm-hmm.
I watched Brazil last week. If you haven't
Hmm.
seen the Terry Gilliam movie Brazil, it owes a lot to 1984. It's about a totalitarian regime in not too far in the future Britain. I mean, it was released in the 80s. And so I think it was supposed to be kind of one of those Max Headroom 15 minutes into the future thing. But a very 1984-esque Britain, where you have an elite class, and then you have a lot of people in the lower classes that have a miserable life. And the whole plot line is kicked off when there was an administrative error, and a guy was wrongly taken by information retrieval, which is, hey, CJ, and information retrieval is basically the Gestapo. And so that they come and grab you, they extract information from you, charge you for the cost of the extraction, and then send you back or disappear you. And so because of an administrative error, this man, this simple father, got taken up. They were actually looking for Robert De Niro, but they grabbed this guy, and they ultimately killed him because they didn't have the right file. So they didn't know he had a heart condition. So the torturer, played by Michael Palin, interestingly enough, off casting, resulted in this guy dying. And so they send a guy to give a compensatory check to the wife. And it kicks off this whole series of events with a lot of confusion and craziness. It's a very dark, apocalyptic, not quite as dark as 1984, but it's a pretty dark narrative. It is. And it is very reminiscent of what is going on in our country right now, which is why I brought it up. And we are beyond the place where I feared we would be in a Trump regime. We are well beyond what I thought might be possible. I didn't realize, and of course I didn't vote for him, but I didn't realize that Project 2025 would actually be implemented in such speedy fashion. I thought there were some things that were going to happen, but I didn't think they were literally going to go page 1, day 1, page 2, day 2, chapters 3 through 6, day 3. I didn't anticipate it. I really did.
Well, I will tell you, if we go back through some of our old footage, I know that I've said on this show before that we were headed for another, if things didn't change or things got out of hand, we'd be headed for another civil war. I thought it would start in Texas. But I knew it would be a state going against the wishes of our Cheeto Mussolini and deploying U.S. troops against that state. And I was questioning whether or not they would uphold the Constitution or follow the president. And here we are with, some troops saying, and some veterans being like, I can't believe this new crop of troops is with this bullshit. We're supposed to defend the Constitution, not domestic and foreign threats. And this is a domestic threat. They should not follow. International law will say, if you're just saying you following orders, that doesn't hold up in court. If you commit a war crime because you were following orders, you committed a war crime, period. And
to that point, Joy, I was seeing I don't know if he's he may be a retired Marine, but he was certainly somebody in the Marine space. And he was saying the challenge with the current people that are being deployed now. You've got these 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. All they know, all they have been taught is how to kill efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
They are the war dogs, as in let loose the dogs of war.
Yeah.
And they are champing at the bit to get a chance to use their training.
Mm-hmm.
These unformed minds who
spent
don't
their
have
formative years playing Call of Duty.
Exactly. And don't have the barest minimum of a GED.
Mm-hmm.
And this is who you're shipping into this thing. And thankfully, it's been mostly a lot of standing around.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw some footage of a guy who had his long gun, and he's doing this.
He's ready to shoot. Trigger happy. Yeah.
In empty streets. Like, not like facing off against 100 protesters down the street. Mm-hmm. Cavernously canyon-like streets at 9:00 at night, and you're doing this.
Mm-hmm. You know what that reminds me of? Do you remember the movie Stripes?
Oh, absolutely. What? Well, not Stripes. Are you thinking? Go ahead, Stripes. Yeah.
Stripes. Remember Psycho? And they were talking about what was going on. He goes, "All I know is I finally get to kill somebody." That's what he wanted to do. He didn't care about anything else. He's like, "All I know is I finally get to kill somebody," and that's.
It kind of reminded me of the that movie with Timothy Hutton and Tom Cruise, where the kids were at a military academy and they were going to shut down the military academy, and they decided that they were going to take a stand, and it ends up with Tom Cruise kind of in a bell tower with like a machine gun.
At all.
Oh my gosh, it was Stripes was a comedy. But
yeah.
this movie was
clearly dark.
I think you're talking about the character was Francis.
Yeah, they called him Psycho.
Yeah, mm-hmm. yeah. Because I kill you. I kill you.
You touch me, you touch my stuff. I kill you. Yeah.
I kill you. So this movie, you can look up Timothy Hutton, Tom Cruise military academy movie. And it's not Toy Soldiers, but it's Taps. Taps is what it's called.
Taps. I feel like I know about Taps, but I don't think I ever saw it. Yeah.
So yeah, you're not that much younger than me, but it was one of Tom Cruise's first films, and it was a film where Timothy Hutton was the star and Tom Cruise was not. That gives you an impression of how early it was.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a kid, and it was
the same. Our point with all of these references is. Life is imitating art is imitating life is imitating art once again. So we found ourselves, there were books written 30 years ago that talk about this. There were movies done 15, 20 years ago that talk about this. Things have happened that movies have been written about in the past, and now history is repeating itself, and we're not paying attention because we thought that was all make-believe, but all those movies were based on something real that happened, and it's happening again, and everybody thinks that they're smarter than that. Everybody thinks that this is different. Everybody thinks that they didn't fall for the okie doke, and they absolutely did.
And this is how big that movie Taps was released in 1981. This is how big the cast was. You had Timothy Hutton, you had Sean Penn as one of the moral centers of the movie. Go figure that out. You had Tom Cruise, you had George C. Scott, who played like one of the commanders, the adult commander, Giancarlo Esposito, who was one of the young students. I won't spoil it. You really should go see it. Ronnie Cox was one of the adults.
I really should find it on like streaming because then you can't go
streaming. Oh yeah, absolutely. But there were a bunch of Evan Handler is in it from Sex and the City. It was a big cast of like young male stars.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1981, Tom Cruise was he was 19 years old and he was playing a high school student. So really good movie, but
CJ is like, she remembers that movie.
It was dark.
And it was dark, yeah. But I mean, that's what when we talk about there's dark days now, because we see these things that, maybe we have a memory of a movie or a book or something along those lines. Like, we've talked about Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler and how it felt prophetic. But it's because we don't study history. And so we are doomed to repeat it. And sometimes Matt amplify it. And it's even worse than we thought it was going to be, like my point about, I thought the Civil War break out between like Oklahoma and the Native Americans that are on reservations up there doing some stuff around like allowing abortions on their land, and the rest of the state going after them. I thought maybe the National Guard would get called in to settle something there, or resistance to the squashing of LGBTQ rights in Texas, or women's rights or something, and it would be National Guard. I did not foresee the National Guard being called in where the governor themselves is like, I don't need this and I don't need you. Back up. Nope, we're coming in, because he is trying to make sure that he has truth, like we said earlier, truth laid out across the United States, so that one day he can flip a switch and all of a sudden the person walking down the street next to you is now activated and becomes whatever deputized soldier, whatever else that they need in that moment. And we are not far from that. We are not far from the possibility of a police state. And it won't be something that they announce. It'll be something that you find out when you wake up the next morning, that we are now in said police state. And so one of the things that I think I want everybody, Anthony, you're absolutely right, stifle and suppress. We're seeing it from state to state, from discussion to discussion, duly elected officials getting arrested, getting manhandled, getting put in handcuffs over and over again. Mayors, senators, everything. This is the beginning of getting us used to the idea that this is happening. They do these little pushes, these little touches every now and then. We can go all the way back to the attempted kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, right?
Yep.
We are testing the waters to see what you will put up with, so that the next time it happens, you've already heard this before, it's not that big of a deal. Or, well, that happened once before. They want us to be used to them arresting their political opponents, just disappearing people off the street, disappearing children off the street.
And I want people to understand, because there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of renewed energy around the push for reparations, and the immediate pushback that you hear from a lot of people, especially in the MAGA space, is that I don't have anything to do with what happened 200 years ago, and why should my money go to such and such and such and such? Guess what? They were eating Black people at lynchings, taking body parts. It wasn't 200 years ago. The last lynching,
it wasn't 100 years ago.
It was not. The last lynching that was, let's absent James Byrd, because James Byrd wasn't even considered a lynching. But the last recorded lynching that was registered and logged as a lynching in the United States was like 1981.
I was born.
Correct. The civil rights movement took place in my mother's lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
People were being murdered. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the Mississippi burning era.
Medgar Evers, yeah.
Medgar Evers. They were killing white people for standing up for civil rights for Black people in the 60s. You know how many of them people are still alive? Ruby Bridges integrated a school and is still alive. Is still alive now. So it's not so long ago. We need to disabuse ourselves of the notion
that this is in 500 years ago,
past and all that. Oh, Columbus had a slave. I didn't have anything to do with that. Okay, we're not talking Columbus. We're talking about my mom. My mom. Pictures of my great-great-grandfather being sold on Walmart.com. What are we doing? What are we doing? You've got to stop pretending like this country is some bastion. I saw a tweet that said, if America saw what America is doing to American citizens, America would be fighting America to free Americans from America.
And who's to say that that's not what's happening right now?
Right.
It may not be full-scale war, but we're seeing resistance, we're seeing protests, we're seeing people trying to right wrongs. We're seeing a few folks here and there step up in our ridiculous government on both sides. But yeah, we are recognizing that we are oppressing ourselves and we are committing war crimes against ourselves, and we need to do something about it.
Need to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
I
But
don't know what
at the core of all of it, though, I mean, a whole lot of white folks don't like to hear that racism is the core of everything. But a lot of our ills stem from the fact that this country, as an entity, has never dealt with its dark past. It has never dealt with what has happened. Yeah, that happened. Get over it. Now, you're telling me at the same time you're telling me to get over slavery, you want to hold on to Confederate statues. Right. Slavery was 400 years. Confederacy was 4. But you think that's more important. And if that's not an example of white supremacy, I don't know what to tell you, right? They always want to act like we didn't have an active Nazi support party in New England in the 30s and 40s. And they Calvin were putting rallies to raise money for Hitler.
Calvin Coolidge was not a nice person.
No.
He was not. Mm-hmm. Showed Birth of a Nation at the White House.
Yep. And if you adjust for inflation, it was one of the highest viewed and highest grossing movies of the time.
Of the era,
right? Yeah. It was the Matrix of its time because it was groundbreaking technology. Ooh. The way it was filmed. And because it was so realistic to them, people thought this is how Black people really are. Never mind that it was a white guy in blackface. But we're getting way off topic with that. But Yvonne's got a point here. Just as the U.S. has done to other countries, our government is now destabilizing our government.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all.
Get yourself together and get your go bag ready, because you may not end up going anywhere, but you're going to want to have some of those resources at hand. Mm-hmm.
Get digital copies of your passport, your driver's license, put it in the cloud so that you have access to it.
Because you may have your physical copy of your passport, but if you get stopped or they say, well, let me hold this and take it into the office, and you'll never see it again. And now you're being arrested,
Don't, folks, we said this last week. We're going to say it this week, especially with the No Kings coming up. We have done our work.
Stay from out there.
Go lay down. Watch it on the TV. Mm-hmm. Tweet if you must, or no, Spill. Go on Spill and comment about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't even want to support Threads anymore. Blue Sky or Spill. Maybe TikTok.
Wait, what's wrong with Threads now?
Well, Threads is Meta. I'm just.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm. Meta Light, same shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all a part of the Meta family. Mm-hmm. So if you do what you can, if you want to provide, if one of your friends tells you, oh my gosh, blah 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 blah, okay, come over here, I'll rent your eyes out. But also, don't put yourself in a position to bear the brunt of the ire because you are the speck of pepper in a sea of salt.
Yes. Because if you are the only one out there, there's a good chance you'll be the only one to get
you'll
become the mugshot.
Literally, there was a No Kings rally, and the image was 2 older Black women being carted off out of a sea of white people.
Well, okay, wait. I gotta run this back. Where was this?
Melanin
from like 30 minutes ago. These are the names he came up with for. Okay, so it was Hennessy, Stella Black, and Simply Lemonade. And Chan has come up with these names for that drink. It's going to be Sweet Hen named Desire, Melanin Sunrise, Brown Girl with a Blonde Wig, and Lemonade Handstands. I think I'm leaning towards Brown Girl with a Blonde Wig personally.
That's the one that kind of, the Beyonce of it, the subtle allusion to Lemonade. I think it's very, no pun intended, meta.
Yeah, Lemonade Handstands. I also feel like, what was the one that you came up with a second ago?
How Stella got her hen back.
How Stella got a hen back. I'm
And you know what? I'll add it. I'll say how Stella got her hen black because it was Stella Black.
Okay. Okay, Tom. Okay, Tom. I'm gonna give y'all neck and neck on that. Chan, you can come on the show and actually have this like meme war with Tom in real life. And CJ,
in real time.
CJ, you came in a little bit late. If you're still around, CJ, next Thursday we're looking for folks to come join us on Juneteenth. If you're interested, you've been up before, you want to come back. It's like I said before, that the episode is going to lean towards petty and towards a little bit more fun, since it's going to be our day to relax.
It is.
Yeah, come on.
Hello, Yvonne DeBowles. I don't know if we've seen you around too much.
Yvonne, you're welcome as well. Just because you're maybe new to the chat doesn't mean you gotta, you ain't gotta earn your stripes here. You want to come on the show? Come on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not pledging.
No,
it's all intake up here. Steel Sharpens Steel, the non-hazing organization. So we would be happy to have you all. All are welcome. All are welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Come to the steel. All right, CJ says she game. Come on, game on, CJ. We got the link for you. It's a permalink now. So anybody who has ever come on the show, we're gonna send you a link. And pretty much, once you have the link, anytime
you pop in whenever you want.
Yeah, we're good on that. So just let us know so that we know to expect you, and that would be great. So we've got one. And so,
we'll send you the link right after the show airs, CJ.
Chan.
Quit playing on my heart, Chan.
Chan the rapper. Chan
the yapper.
Yeah, Chan the yapper. Exactly. Come through, Joy. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Because I got something I want to say.
No. Not particularly.
Okay.
Ironheart.
Oh, yes. Ironheart launches this week. Right?
This week? I know it's soon. It's June.
Okay. She likes the sweet hen named Desire. There we go. Now we got a new drink to try. So drink that up. And CJ said, Chan, I need a gift. And that gift would be, I need a gift. And that gift would be you on the show. Okay.
All right. June 25th for Ironheart. But go ahead. I didn't want to distract you. You wanted to talk about something.
I'm going to talk about something old and new, because this happened, again, similar to my experience with the Black woman who had different political views from me. I was on Threads, and I like to play, mostly I play around on Threads, like following like K-pop and just doing silly things. But there was a video that came out, and the video was, in my eyes, clearly an ad. And it was a video of a woman, and she was holding up her little camera right here, and she's like, so I had chicken fingers and something else. And so then you see this guy off camera come and start to bother her, like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, you're like that, oh, you think you're cute? Can I buy you a drink? And so when he tries to reach for her glass, she snatches it back from him, and then she puts a little plastic cap over the glass to put a straw in. So it's an ad for the little plastic cover, so that if you're out in public, somebody can't spike your drink. And she's having this conversation with this guy. He doesn't leave her alone. He won't go away. And so you see how she's uncomfortable and like, oh, he's so weird. It's an ad. A whole lot of people in the comment section didn't realize it was an ad, and they were giving her advice. Girl, you need to get away. I hope you call the police, blah, blah. Other people like, it's an ad. Let's be real. Because why else would she be recording right then with nobody around? So since it's clearly just all, fluff and mirrors at this point, I made a comment and said, who doesn't reach for your drink like that? Bears. And that Tom's response should have been the correct response. Instead, I got a slew of, oh, a bear's gonna maul your face, but good luck with that. That's what you think. Women keep choosing the bear. Y'all don't realize y'all gonna get eaten. Blah, blah, blah. And we're like, no, yes we do. Yes we do. That's the whole point. We would rather take our chances with the bear. And then other people going back and forth. This guy's like, you're an idiot. One guy clearly had gone to my profile page because he pulled a couple of like details off my self-description. He's like, oh, Gen X, why don't you go take your meds and shut the fuck up, blah, 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 blah. And I just wrote back, thanks for the reminder. I do need to take my meds. I appreciate that. I hope your mother loves you. Because and she gives you a hug. Like instead of responding with more violence, I just went in with like, one guy's like, you know who else doesn't come on the internet making stupid comments about something that doesn't matter? Bears. I was like, yeah, bears are cool like that. You know, you can't get me because I'm ungettable. You know, if you read my whole profile, you know that I was
Yogi, Baloo, all right. Bears, bitches.
Right, me and the bear crew. So the pinnacle of the situation though was when an account called The Bear in the Woods came on my under my comment section and was like, "You got me right, you wouldn't juju a bear." And then he went for, I assume it's a he, it could be a woman, but the bear in the woods came at everybody that was giving me a hard time and laid them the F out. Like, it was so beautiful to see. But the reason I want to talk about this is these dudes, like at one point I had to explain to this guy, he's like, "Oh, so you're fine being mauled to death. It might not be quick. It might take days for you to die." And he's like, "Y'all don't understand it. Y'all don't understand it. It might not be a quick death." I wrote back, "No, we understand that. What you're not understanding is that women are literally saying they would rather die than be with you. That's the thing. I would rather be mauled by a bear, because at least the bear was honest about what he wanted, right? I would rather be mauled by a bear than spend a week with you. Think about that. And guys, we can protect you. Women don't understand. That's why y'all's on the no, we get it. What y'all aren't hearing and don't want to believe is that we'd rather either be alone or take our chances with a bear, because I might be able to bop him with a piece of wood and he'll leave me alone. If I bop you with a piece of wood, it's just going to get worse for me. Right. And so, yes, exactly. We are 95% smoke. Don't try me. Don't try. What did it say? Do not quote the witchcraft to me. I was there when it was invented, or whatever that line is. Don't quote the ancient magics to me.
Yeah, the ancient magics to me.
Mm-hmm.
I saw there's a comedian. He's a young guy, must be in his 20s, maybe early 30s. And he was telling a joke. He started posting his stuff weekly on like Facebook, and now he has a comedy special and he does a lot of touring. Everything. I think his name is Justin, like Justin Johnson or something like that. He's got dreadlocks. He looks really young, but he's also very, very funny. And he was telling a story about this choice and how, to your point, exactly what you were saying, like the men were coming in the comments like, "Well, why would you choose the bear? It started off somewhat tame." And then they get the response from a woman. "Well, but bears are dangerous." "Yeah, we understand." And then by the time it was like, "That's why you crazy bees need to such and such, and you don't realize they're going to tear you apart and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da." And they're like, "Copy lane."
Mm-hmm. I would take that over a week.
Exactly it. Mm-hmm. Like, you do not understand that you are literally making the case.
You're proving my point.
Because guess what? There's Pocahontas, and you might be able to sing Colors of the Wind, and that bear might, just take you up a tree, like feed you some honey or something.
Exactly.
You don't know. Earth goddess vibes. You don't know what the hell could happen.
If the bear isn't hungry, the bear ain't gonna bother you. The only exception would be like polar bears, and that's because they live to eat. Because they need to be able to, because the food sources are scarce where they are. So that's understandable. But I want to touch on something I just saw in the chat. I was trying to look it up. Israel just launched airstrikes on the air.
Yes, that's what I wanted to bring. I didn't want to like interrupt your thing, but yes. And so the president, who was not going to be world peace, Israel has felt emboldened to strike Iran because they have destroyed Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
And now they feel like, okay, we got all our land. We
can do whatever we want.
We can do whatever we want. We're a nuclear power. And, so now we're going to explain. So here we go. And there are some evangelicals, best believe there are evangelicals in Alabama and Oklahoma and Nebraska and Montana who are like, "Ooh, it's a coming. Ooh, it's a coming. It's the apocalypse. It's the last days." They're thrilled. They are thrilled because they don't care about actual Israeli Jews as much as they care about the apocalypse coming. Because they don't want to be left behind. You're going to be left behind.
You're going to be left behind.
You
Or
are
you're
the
going to jail.
leftovers.
Or you going to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're the leftovers.
Yes.
You love Kirk Cameron. Kirk Cameron's a Christian. He starred in the movies as one of the people who was left behind. Let's just say.
I see what you did there, Chan.
My God.
You know what? I'm so
Stop putting
over
your
you.
comments up, Chan. If
Yeah.
you just come on the show. You have to come on the show to say it.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do a blackout on Chan.
Yeah, we're gonna do a blackout on Chan.
Mm-hmm.
So,
This
Israel
is
and Iran that's heavy.
This is a big deal.
This is humongous, and the writing's been on the wall. And listen, when Iran strikes back, because there's a whole Bibi got a whole lot of hubris.
Yep. It's not a matter of when, it's a matter of has it happened yet.
Correct.
It's gonna probably within the next 24 hours, within the next 5 possibly. But again, the same way Trump didn't know anything about what Zelensky was doing, Trump knew about this and was trying to advise them not to do it, or then telling them, we don't want you to do it. And so a world force that we as a country have always supported and been viewed as their big brother, their protector, whatever, has shot us the finger and said, we're going to do what we want. You can't tell me what to do. I'm out here wilding. I'm 9 years old. I do what I want. And so here we are.
I do what I want. I do what I want.
And so what else does that say to say what? Yeah, it was my apartment. But what does that say to the rest of the world that is watching? Israel has always been little brother to the United States government. And now they have shaken off our advice, authority, pull, influence, whatever, and they're doing whatever they want. Zelensky, the United States had been supporting Ukraine for a long time. And then when he discovered that we had changed on him, he's like, all right, I didn't really need y'all no way. And so that idea, I don't really need y'all no way, is very destructive to the United States, because we tend to be a global superpower that exchanges military might for resources.
Yep.
And if they no longer need our military might, we will not have access to their resources. And who gets hurt with that? We do.
Well, it's just like China and the rare earth minerals
that
we need for our chips. And China's like, but we gonna want some of them chips, right?
Yeah.
You're not just gonna take all of our lithium and our, blah, 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 blah.
Right. And not send it back process.
We got to get some chips. The deal maker in chief is about to collapse the world economy and has destabilized the entire structure, because he has given permission for Israel to act out its worst principles, its very worst instincts. And once they destroyed Palestine, once they destroyed Palestinians and destroyed the crown jewel of Palestine, they were emboldened. You can't put that genie back in the bottle.
Right. They really are living who gonna check me, boo.
That's what it is.
Because they know that Trump ain't gonna do nothing. It's gonna be taco in full effect. Because if he could do something, he would have done it already. If they thought he could do something, they wouldn't have tried this.
They would not have tried it. But they knew. He's a hoe. They know he's a hoe.
I wonder how those folks in Minnesota, those enclaves of Muslims who thought that Kamala Harris was the worst thing ever.
Oh no, that was Michigan.
Michigan. Thank you. I knew something. And urged people not to vote for her. I wonder. I haven't heard a lot from them.
No, I mean, some of them came out before things got as dire as they have now become. Some of them came out and said, well, we still didn't have a choice because Kamala, blah, blah, blah. They were unhappy. But to be clear, it was less the Muslim community and more the Chaldean community, which is actually a Christian community from predominantly Muslim states.
Thank you for clarifying that.
but they are Muslim adjacent because they have, they came from Muslim countries, and so they have people and friends, and they still align themselves with their old country. But in Dearborn specifically, I'm not saying all Muslims or people in Michigan, but Dearborn in specific is an enclave of the Chaldeans, and so that community is very strong in Dearborn. And you're right, they don't have a lot to say. There's not very much to say.
No. Because whatever you say, we saw what you did, and you live on what you got to live with.
We know what you did.
CJ makes a very good point. I mean, again, Iran was just censured by the IAEA for secret nuclear activities, because they didn't tell anybody about this. But the censure doesn't solve the issue, right? But then CJ makes a good point. Trump has spent so much time playing chicken with Gavin Newsom and losing. That those troops, to mobilize troops to go anywhere else, is going to take a Herculean effort at this point. Tanks are being wasted on the streets of DC. What you about to do, bro? Nothing.
And moved American troops out of the zone.
Yeah.
And was on a press conference talking about, well, I didn't know if it was going to happen, but I didn't want our people there if it was going to happen. Okay, so. Stabilizing forces you don't want in the middle of a conflict. And I understand why, because you're the anti-war guy. You're the guy who's supposed to make the deals. You're the guy who's supposed to, everybody was supposed to bend the knee. Everybody was supposed to kowtow to the deal maker and the guy who was the genius and the smartest guy on the planet. And
none of those things. Yeah.
None of it is happening. And everything is going to shit.
Rapidly.
I mean,
he didn't make it 6 months without threatening world stability.
And he had the nerve to try to say that somebody else was going to be in charge of creating World War III. It's all on you, my boy.
And I would say that's a done deal, bro. Anybody in their right mind coming to the United States, especially all these different foreign countries? Absolutely not.
I mean, we already had what was it, the 76 Olympics, where the athletes from Israel were murdered or whatever, and it turned into a whole thing.
I was born in 74, so I don't really remember. But yeah, Anthony, well said. So with this news, as we said, the story is breaking as we speak. So, thank you, Anthony, for knowing a little bit more details. 76, Montreal.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. I knew I wasn't crazy.
But get your life together, people. Get your affairs in order. Get your plan together, because it won't happen until it happens.
Correct.
Everything will be business as usual. You'll be going to work every day, and then all of a sudden, there's sirens at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're being hustled out of your house with no explanation left. So be ready. I don't want to encourage people to live a life of hypervigilance. That way lies madness. However, have a contingency plan. The reason we call it a go bag is so that if you need to go, you got everything you need in there. You ain't got to worry about, do I need this? Did I put something in there? Extra deodorant, toothbrush, some water pellets, some what are those little iodine pellets to clean up water, all that kind of stuff. So that if something happens, as long as you have your bag with you, and in there should be, a flash drive with all of your documents and stuff on it, so that if they take your paper copy, you got another copy. Just have that on standby. And then once you prepare that and have it on standby, your stress level should come down a little bit, because you're ready if something happens. And if nothing happens, you're still ready.
You're still good. Ain't nothing wrong with nothing happening. We don't want anything to happen. But
the reason there were so many Jews murdered in the concentration camps in Germany is because a lot of them didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Right.
A lot of them felt like this will pass. We've lived through other things. We'll live through this too. I can't leave my business. I can't leave my family, whatever. this guy's a blowhard, because Hitler was not popular, but he had the clout, the following, and the cunning to be in power. And so don't think that it can't happen here, because
Well,
it has almost happened several times.
and let's be clear. January 6th owes a lot to the beer hall putsch. That was one of Hitler's first little plays, because once he became chancellor, he pardoned his brown shirts. And then lo and behold, now they're a force for him.
Right. Like, didn't I say earlier that they're deputizing the January 6th
deputizing the January 6ers. You've been pardoned. And what we didn't really talk about last week on the issue of pardons is that it's not just a matter of them being free. All of these people who got unconditional pardons, any penalties that were levied against them are also forgiven. So
including some of those $1 million fines that people had.
Correct. The $1 million fines gone because you've been pardoned, and it's an unconditional pardon. It's not a commutation. It's a pardon. And somebody did an analysis because, Joe Biden pardoned some of his family members, and he did. And that does look sketch. But he pardoned 86 people. His other pardons were commutations. So, and they were commuted after the people had paid their fines, after the people had done their things. And so just kind of cleaned their record, but they had already served and they had already faced the penalties that they had earned with their behavior. He just told people, you're good. Go ahead, get out here, live your life, be free.
Kind of like forgiving student loans. Like, you paid enough. You ain't got to pay no more. You good.
Right.
There's one thing that I give Biden good credit for, big credit for, is before he got out of office, he's like, let me do some shit real quick before I go. All right. Pop, 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 pop. Hunter, boom. And, good. I wish, in retrospect, that during Obama's second term, he had just went buck wild. Now, there's a very good chance they would have assassinated him if he did. So I don't wish that. But I wonder if there were some things that maybe if he had pushed the envelope a little bit, even if he got his hand slapped, they may have put things in place to say, no president can ever blah, 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 just to stop him from doing it, so that we wouldn't have somebody trying to do it now.
Have what we have now. Ain't no lie. No lie. No, Mike, I'm sorry. I refuse to recognize that person.
Now go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were saying now that I've
depressed myself once again, I'm going to go escape into K-dramas and Stray Kids and, cheer myself up. That's what I do nowadays, is try to find something to keep me from spiraling. Because I'm a pattern recognition person, and I see where we're headed. And I don't see us veering away from anarchy and chaos. And I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but it's not that far off. So yeah, am I worried? Am I nervous? Am I panicking a little bit? Am I, spiraling into, rage and depression? Yeah, all of that. I still need to eat though. I still got to go to work. I still got rent. Like Anthony says, his therapy is a punching bag. I have an actual therapist that I talk to. I had just taken it down to every other month. I'm about to go back to once a month. Like, girl, this bullshit right here. And talk to you. That's another part of being prepared. Have your circle around you. Have people that you can talk to keep you off the ledge, so to speak. So take care of yourselves, people.
Please take care of yourselves, people. Whatever it is that you do, Sinners is on demand. Stream the hell out of Sinners. You got Ironheart on the 25th. You got Eyes of Wakanda dropping soon. If you're in New York, go see Purpose. Pulitzer Prize winning play. Just do and keep your peace.
Yes.
Thank you, Anthony. Protect your peace. Period. Full stop. Point blank. Period. All right. So, with that said, We will see you next week for Juneteenth. We will see you and CJ for Juneteenth. And I will say, I'm Tom Cunningham.
I'm Joy Stevens.
And this is Steel Sharpens Steel. Protect your peace. We will. Peace in. I want you to say peace out. Peace in.
Yeah, peace in.